Deep in the heart of an ancient forest lived a kind and gentle fairy. Her name was Rosebud. She had shimmering wings like gossamer. Her dress was made of soft pink petals. Rosebud's hair was the color of golden sunshine. She wore a crown of tiny wildflowers on her head. Forest Fairy, as Rosebud. Good morning. Every morning, Rosebud would flit from tree to tree. She'd greet all her animal friends with a cheery, "Good morning." The squirrels would chatter back happily. The birds would sing their sweetest songs for her. Even the shy deer would come out to nuzzle her hand. Rosebud loved all the creatures of the forest dearly. Rosebud had a very important job in the forest. She took care of all the plants and animals. When a flower drooped, she'd sprinkle it with magic fairy dust. If a bird fell from its nest, she'd heal its wing. She made sure the forest was always lush and green. The animals were always healthy and happy. At night, Rosebud would return to her cozy home. It was inside the trunk of an old oak tree. She had a little bed made of moss. Her blanket was woven from spider silk. Fireflies lit up her home with a soft, warm glow. As she drifted off to sleep, Rosebud would think about all the good she'd done that day. She was content knowing her forest friends were safe and sound. One day, an unexpected visitor arrived in the forest. It was Thorn, an evil fairy from the dark mountains. Thorn was jealous of the beautiful forest. She wanted to cause mischief and mayhem. Her wings were black as night. Her eyes glowed an eerie green. Evil fairy as Thorn cackles wickedly. All the animals hid when they saw her coming. Thorn cackled wickedly as she flew through the trees. She spotted a fluffy white rabbit nibbling on some clover. With a wave of her thorny wand, she cast a terrible spell. There was a puff of purple smoke. When it cleared, the rabbit was gone. In its place stood a big, scary wolf. The wolf looked confused and frightened. It didn't know what had happened, but soon its wild instincts took over. It began to growl and bare its sharp teeth. All the other animals ran away in terror. The peaceful forest was no longer safe. Forest Fairy as Rosebud. "Oh, no, what has happened to my dear rabbit friend?" Rosebud heard the commotion and came flying quickly. She gasped when she saw the wolf. "Oh no," she cried, "what has happened to my dear rabbit friend?" She tried to undo the spell with her own magic, but Thorn's dark magic was too strong. Rosebud knew she needed help to save her furry friend and restore peace to the forest. Rosebud knew there was only one being who might know how to break the spell. It was the ancient spirit of the forest. The spirit lived in the very heart of the woods. It was said to be as old as the forest itself. Rosebud had never met the spirit before, but she knew she had to try. The fairy flew deeper into the forest than she'd ever been before. The trees grew taller and closer together. Very little sunlight reached the forest floor here. Rosebud's wings glowed softly in the dim light. At last, she came to an enormous tree. Its trunk was wider than 10 fairies with outstretched arms. Forest Fairy as Rosebud. "Oh, great spirit of the forest, please help me." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the bark of the tree began to shift and move. A face appeared in the trunk. It had kind, wise eyes and a mouth that looked like it was smiling. "Friendly old oak, as spirit of the forest, little fairy, I know why you have come. To break the evil spell, you must go on a quest. Find 3 magical items: a golden acorn, a moonstone, and a feather from the firebird. Only then can you save your friend." Rosebud thanked the spirit and set off on her brave quest. Section 4. The Quest for the Golden Acorn.
My first task was to find the golden acorn. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Golden acorns were very rare. They only grew on the oldest oak tree in the forest.
Rosebud flew high above the treetops, looking for the tallest oak. At last, she spotted it. The oak tree was enormous. Its branches reached up to touch the clouds. Rosebud flew closer, searching the branches for a glint of gold.
There, near the very top, I see it. The golden acorn shone brightly in the sunlight.
But just as Rosebud was about to grab the acorn, a strong wind began to blow. It nearly knocked her out of the sky. She clung to a branch, her wings fluttering madly. The wind howled and the tree swayed. Rosebud was scared, but she didn't give up. When the wind died down, Rosebud made one final attempt. She zoomed up to the top of the tree. Quick as a flash, she plucked the golden acorn from its branch.
I did it!
She cried happily. She carefully tucked the acorn into her petal pocket.
One magical item down, 2 more to go.
Section 5, Moonstone and Firebird Feathers.
Next, I need to find a moonstone. These magical gems could only be found in the Glimmering Caves.
The caves were dark and full of twisting tunnels. Rosebud's wings lit the way as she flew inside. She looked high and low for the sparkling stone. Deep in the cave, Rosebud heard a soft sound. It was like tinkling bells. She followed the noise and found a hidden chamber. The walls were covered in moonstones. They glowed with a soft, silvery light. Rosebud carefully chose the prettiest one and added it to her pocket.
The last item I need is a feather from the Firebird. The Firebird is very rare and hard to find. It only appears at sunset near the Whispering Waterfall.
Rosebud waited patiently as the sun began to set. The sky turned orange and pink. Just as the last rays of sunlight faded, Rosebud saw a flash of red and gold. The Firebird soared over the waterfall. Its feathers blazed like flames. As it flew past, a single feather drifted down. Rosebud caught it gently. It was warm to the touch and glowed softly.
I have all 3 items at last.
Section 6. A joyous celebration in the forest.
I flew back to where the wolf was waiting. The poor creature looked sad and confused.
Rosebud took out the 3 magical items. She waved them over the wolf and said a special spell. There was a bright flash of light. When it faded, the fluffy white rabbit was back. The rabbit hopped around happily, overjoyed to be itself again. All the forest animals came out of hiding. They cheered for brave Rosebud. She had saved the day and restored peace to the forest. Even the trees seemed to whisper their thanks.
To celebrate, the animals threw a grand party. The squirrels brought nuts and berries. The bees shared their sweetest honey. The birds sang beautiful melodies.
Rosebud danced with her fairy wings shimmering in the moonlight. It was a magical night they would never forget. From that day on, the forest was more peaceful than ever before. Rosebud continued to care for all her animal friends, but now they loved and appreciated her even more. They knew she would always protect them no matter what. And so the kind fairy and her forest friends lived happily ever after in their enchanted woodland home.